I've seen from Frank Lampard at Derby and then subsequently at Chelsea. So really exciting times. If they could get into the playoffs, obviously that's still an ask at this point, then they are, you know, a team to be much fancied given the recent form.
Crunch time this Saturday lunchtime as sixth-place Coventry City look to strengthen their push for a place in the playoffs as they host third-place Burnley, who find themselves out of the top two, but only on goal difference. Defeat 8 days ago for Frank Lampard's side as Sheffield United proved too much for them at Bramall Lane, but here at home, the Sky Blues have won 4 straight games. Victory, though, for Burnley would at least temporarily take them into the top two. It may well take them top, but a real challenge for them today against the side that have won 10 of their last 13 games. So let's take a look at the teams here. Frank Lampard makes 4 changes from the side, which started at Sheffield United last Friday night. An enforced change in goal with Oliver Dovin's ACL injury at Bramall Lane. Bradley Collins, who replaced him on the night, starts today. Liam Kitching comes back into the heart of defence. Jay De Silva comes in at left back for Jake Bidwell. Whilst Jack Fredoni, Coventry's key creator with 10 assists this season, fit enough to start once again after his shoulder injury. As for Scott Parker, he makes just the one alteration from the side, which edged out Bristol City at Turf Moor 7 days ago, courtesy of a brilliant strike from Zian Fleming. But Fleming makes way today as he drops down to the bench and is replaced by Lyle Foster, who has just 2 championship goals this season. CJ Egan-Riley scored when the sides met earlier this season. 13 goals so far this campaign for Burnley's top scorer, Josh Brownhill. Two men in charge today who know each other so well. Former teammates at Chelsea and who played together wearing the 3 Lions. Huge respect between both of them. Many a nice word shared yesterday, but for the next 90 minutes, it is business between Frank Lampard and Scott Parker. How big then, Sam, the return to the starting lineup of Jack Fredoni?
Yeah, it's probably one selection we would have anticipated. He's got terrific delivery, and I think that's one place where Coventry could get some joy today. Only Derby scored more from dead balls than the home side this season, and whether that's Fredoni taking them or getting on the end of deliveries, he's one to watch certainly. And I think Jaden Anthony really in form at the moment. They would have wanted to be a little bit more free scoring, of course, Burnley, but with him on one side and Marcus Edwards on the other right now, they're looking really fresh and really dangerous in the wide positions.
James Bell, our man in charge here this afternoon. Huge game, great atmosphere at the CBS Arena. We are at the pressure point of the season. Burnley knows slip-ups could be so costly in their quest to make it into the top 2, but pressure aplenty on Coventry City as well in the race to extend the season into a playoff campaign. Glorious conditions, sound all around this stadium. Who can come out on top over the next 90 minutes? Burnley were 2-0 winners when the sides met earlier in the season. Second half goals from Jeremy Sarmiento and CJ Egan-Riley giving Scott Parker's side victory back in November. It was a result which left Coventry 17th in the table, 11 places higher now. But can they make it into the playoffs as Burnley look to make a bright beginning and a shooting opportunity here? Effort fired in from Jaden Anthony, and good for Bradley Collins to get a feel for the ball early on.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he's an experienced goalkeeper, Collins, but obviously been playing second fiddle to Dovin in recent months. So, yeah, really important that he starts this game well today. And a nice early feel of the ball from him.
Haji Wright continuing to lead the line for Coventry City. 4th successive start for him. Scott Parker's side will have to find a way to keep him quiet. Scott Parker says that His players are excited about the challenge ahead over the next 7 games. He's seen unbelievable development from his players through the course of the season. Remarkable run defensively as well, Sam. So much has been said, but every time you look at the numbers, it does take you aback slightly. They've conceded just 6 goals on the road this season, Scott Parker's side. Fewest ever conceded in an English League season is 8 from Preston in 1888 and 1889, and Arsenal 1990 to 91. Preston only played 11 away games. Arsenal played 19. This is Burnley's 20th here today. Tough task for Frank Lampard and his side.
Yeah, we're probably getting a little, I suppose, tired of talking about it, but we shouldn't be, because it is just incredible numbers, and it's difficult to exactly pinpoint when you watch them where the strength is. Clearly, the partnership of the 2 centre-halves is almost immaculate. They've been in tandem throughout the season. The continuity's been there. The goalkeeper, after those early question marks in the Premier League last season, has been phenomenal, and it's that work ethic. I think you're going to get that from the midfield 3 invariably, because they're all that type of player. I think, you know, they do both sides of the game really well, the 3 Joshes in there, but it's the wide players I like, Anthony and Edwards today. They'll get back in and support the fullbacks without the ball, and it's that discipline, I think, the way they're coached, which has seen them just break, well, they're going to break all records, aren't they, this season? It's incredible.
Burnley looking to break forwards here. Here's Anthony. Foster waiting in the middle. It's cleared away by Bobby Thomas.
Yeah, that November game you referenced, 22 games they've had since Burnley, since they beat Coventry at Turf Moor, conceded 5 goals. I mean, the numbers are nonsense. Yeah, think of that Chelsea team the first year under Mourinho. It's akin to something like that. It's a season that will be remembered for this reason for forever, probably.
Has been a bright start by Burnley. Jadon Anthony just drifting into an offside position there. First goal, never more crucial perhaps than when you come up against Scott Parker's side. They know how to strangle a game once they get themselves in front. Coventry don't fear anybody here at home. They've been so impressive in recent games under Frank Lampard. 4 successive victories for them. Their only defeat in their last dozen came here against Leeds United. Stepping out into the sunshine, Frank Lampard. Plenty of questions asked when he was given the job. Plenty of interest in being the next man to lead Coventry, but I think it's fair to say Frank Lampard has answered any critics that he had, Sam, pretty emphatically with this rise up the table.
Yeah, I think there was a feeling that the squad was better than it was performing, despite there being a few standout results early part of the season.
Brilliant from Van Eyck. Radoni pushed onto the post and then turned into the net. Burnley look for an offside, but Haji Wright wheels away to celebrate. Burnley's magnificent defence breached here early on at the CBS Arena. Or has it been? James Bell in discussion. And he's going to go and have a chat to his assistant. Coventry believe they've got themselves in front through Haji Wright. They could not have made a better beginning to today.
It must have been close. Haji Wright, the Coventry player who on the spin turns it in. Van Eyck into Radoni. That is a phenomenal save, and as we can see there, as Mason Clark gets the strike away, certainly looks like Haji Wright was the wrong side from a Coventry perspective of the Burnley covering defender. It's a tidy finish in the end. Still got a little bit to do on the turn, but yeah, Burnley not happy, and you can see why.
Well, immediately Burnley's players went to question the assistant, and having now had the privilege of the replays, you can see why they were adamant that that goal should not have stood. Coventry ahead though, they've done what they needed to do. to break through that Burnley defence and put themselves into the lead here. It is so difficult to strike against Burnley. It is just the start for a neutral, Sam, that you would want to see here this afternoon, but Burnley will be raging when they see that back.
Yeah, I think in any game that Burnley are taking part in at the moment, you want the opposition from a neutral's perspective to get their nose in front, just to ask that question and see how they react. So good, of course, when they've gone a goal ahead. That can be said about Frank Lampard's Coventry as well. Since he's been at the helm, they've been almost immaculate. I think just the 2 defeats in the games that they've gone in front of. So they have got a taste for it. They know how to, I suppose, restrict the opponent once they get ahead in games, and we'll see how Burnley can come back from there.
So let's take another look at it here. Brilliant initial save from James Trafford to push that onto the post, but I think it's clear to see, isn't it, Sam?
Yeah, I mean, there's certainly a part of him. It looks like maybe a part of the Burnley player on the deck. Roberts, it is slightly in line, but then there is definitely a portion of right, one of his legs, the wrong side. And very, very surprised that that's not been seen. There was a little delay, wasn't there, as the Burnley players surrounded the referee, but for whatever reason, he's not gone over to speak to the assistant.
So Burnley find themselves in adversity here at the CBS Arena. Plenty of time for Scott Parker to turn this situation around. Just the 7th away goal that they've conceded this season. Coventry were working on their formula this week, Sam. Their way to win against Burnley, striking first, was going to be so crucial to it.
Yeah, absolutely. Not really had too much of the ball until that raid down the right-hand side, which crafted the opportunity initially for Rodoni. He'll be so disappointed, the goalkeeper, Trafford, because it is a phenomenal save. It looked like it was in all the way from Rodoni's left foot. Brilliant fingertip save. And this is an area, despite Burnley being terrific defensively from set pieces throughout the season, Coventry really good, physically strong, lots of players that can go and attack the ball impressively, so they'll have to be on their guard today, and Coventry will fancy, I'm sure, hurting them from dead balls.
We'll keep you across what's going on in the other 2 games in the Championship this Saturday lunchtime. No goals so far at the Hawthorns or at Kenilworth Road. Now, Anthony, just a bit of a touch in the back there of Bobby Thomas. Bobby Thomas, who's been making a name for himself at the other end here at home in recent weeks. 3 winning goals that he scored. Brilliant start for Frank Lampard's side.
Yeah, perfect response to the disappointment at Sheffield United, where they were well beaten. And he'll know with just that 2-point cushion that they have to keep their foot on the gas, that's for sure. Especially Middlesbrough winning last night.
Uneasy scenes at Ewood Park for anyone who holds Blackburn close to their heart. Challenge on Rodoni is a strong one, but a fair one by Josh Lauren. And a free kick awarded for a challenge on Lyle Foster. I have to ask you, Sam, we'll perhaps touch on it after we see the replay of this incident, but was it a surprise inclusion to see Lyle Foster into the Burnley team today?
Yeah, possibly. We don't know if the Flemings maybe got a little niggle or something after the Bristol City game. But the match winner, I think it always raises the eyebrows, doesn't it, when they're not out there from the outset of the subsequent game. I think Foster probably gives you a little bit more mobility, possibly. So maybe it's in terms of the pressure they want to apply on Coventry when they're looking to play out. Fleming's more of a number 10. I know he's done a fine job down the middle this season and come up with some crucial goals, but I see Foster probably having that slightly more robust and maybe slightly stronger work ethic when you go away from home. And there's a lot of games, so it's about game management as well.
Anthony, the target, he's going to have to get through the gears to keep this in play, and he's unable to do so. 10 goal involvements for Jadon Anthony so far this season. Well, it was noisy in here as we got underway. The decibel level has risen since then because of that goal for Haji Wright. His 11th goal of the season. He's going to contest for this, but he's beaten to it by Estev.
Yeah, it's got a real strong look to it now, the Coventry front three. And just think where they could have been, I think, if Haji Wright would have stayed fit throughout the season. I mean, that should give the Coventry fans real optimism if they are going to get into the playoffs. Him being back fit, full of goals. What's that, 4 in the last 2 home games now? 11 minutes into this afternoon's game. He could be the most important player for any side maybe going into the playoffs, because I thought he was a shoo-in for 20 goals this season had he played the majority of the games.
Van Eyck roaming. Sakamoto. Pace just drops out of the attack slightly, and Coventry will go back to build again. Thomas. Pumps it into the shadows, and the chase on for Van Eyck, who just clips it into the penalty area. Grimes. Kitching just floats one forward. It'll break for Rodoni here. Jack Rodoni has it taken off his toes. Really well-timed challenge, and Josh Cullen just caught there on Rodoni's follow-through. Read that situation so well.
Yeah, half an opportunity for Rodoni on the left foot. Just keeping an eye on him there as the play developed. Always looking to make the box. I don't think they should turn down opportunities to put it in there. Does come in eventually. Mason Clark does really well to knock it down. And Josh Cullen, as he so often is, in the right position to clear Burnley's lines.
These early games sometimes can be slightly sleepy at the start. Anything but here this afternoon. Burnley began the game well. Coventry striking with their first foray forward. Lampard saying his team have had a really good week of training. So very likely, of course, to be their last full week of training as we go through the end of the season. He's put a bit more physical work into his players. Here's Edwards as Burnley look for a response. Faced up by De Silva. Into Brownhill. Coventry brilliant here at home last time out as they beat Sunderland by 3-0. Lucas Pires works the 1-2. Burnley committing plenty of players into this attack. They had 4 waiting inside the penalty area. That one cut out before it reaches Foster. And we're going to have a few incidents like that through the course of the afternoon. You feel Haji Wright penalised for that particular challenge?
Yeah, I felt that his eyes were fixated on the ball really as it came out of the sky. Segan Riley, who takes a whack, no question, or maybe just had to have a little glance towards the centre half. You can see the Coventry bench not happy with that whatsoever, but probably the right decision in the end.
Referee getting some stick already from the Coventry supporters. 24 seasons now outside of the Premier League. They came so close, of course, just a couple of years ago in that Championship playoff final. A slip there could have proved costly, but the ball skips through to Bradley Collins. Big decision made, I guess, with Oliver Dovin out. Bradley Collins given the nod in goal. Ben Wilson was a possible option as well. I'm sure there would have been some discussions between Frank Lampard and Aled Williams, the goalkeeping coach, through the course of the week.
Yeah, both played in big games. So I think Collins probably played more football as a first-team regular. Wilson invariably has been a number 2 at lots of clubs, but Collins involved in that FA Cup run last season. Wilson's played in the playoff final, used to the big occasion.
Here's Foster. He rolls it to his right. Perhaps could have looked for Brownhill. It's retrieved by Marcus Edwards. And the ball pulled back here towards Foster and put home by Jayden Anthony. There's your Burnley response. 10 minutes after falling behind, Jayden Anthony brings the automatic promotion chasers level.
Yeah, and the response has been a good one. They've been on the ball, they've been probing. And there was a couple of Burnley players, maybe slightly earlier in that move, that had the opportunity to turn it towards the goal. In the end, completely unguarded the net when it falls for Anthony, and simple task. Ball turns over. They'll be really disappointed with that. Coventry, it's good play from Brownhill, gets the important block. Anthony disappointed initially as he tried to spread the play. That's a cute little pass from Edwards and a little bit of good fortune. Foster can't get his finish away, but it falls perfectly for the goal scorer. This is the most integral part, you would say. Edwards' little ball just sucked Collins out of the goal. Once again here, a little bit in no man's land, the goalkeeper. No Coventry player can recover in time, and Anthony gets another goal.
Burnley hit with a punch early on, but Scott Parker's side refusing to be knocked out of their rhythm. Level, and level quickly.
In really good form, Jaden Anthony, after struggling for goals maybe the early part of the season. All of a sudden he's burst into life. One recently at Swansea, making goals as well, and Scott Parker been speaking about his quality and the way that he's grown. Obviously had him at Bournemouth. It's a really good spell from him. Perfect time of the season to be doing it.
It's been lively so far this afternoon, Jaden Anthony, and it is he that brings Burnley level. Plenty of challenges going in, plenty of pauses to the play, and a yellow card out of the pocket very quickly there of the referee. I think Jamie Allen was shown it, as well as Josh Brownhill. It may well have been Liam Kitching. So Brownhill was shown a yellow card. Was there a yellow card before that? Indeed there was, a yellow card shown to Liam Kitching.
That's got to be for the complaints, hasn't it, from Kitchen? Definitely was a foul. A slightly high foot on Brownhill initially, and sometimes that leads to another coming together. Brownhill straight into another challenge, and it was a poor one as well. It was late.
And it has been a frenetic opening to the game. All forwards here, and Haji Wright tussling. Can't take your eyes off this one. Here's Cullen. Well, they don't find themselves behind in games very often, Sam, so a situation perhaps that Burnley aren't particularly used to, but just what Scott Parker would have wanted to see. And as we can see from these match stats, it has been, possession aside, relatively even in terms of the attacking threat.
Yeah, no huge chances to talk of really, other than the 2 goals, but it's been pretty even. Coventry started relatively well, and Burnley haven't panicked, played their way back into the game, had the majority of the ball, no question, since that Coventry opener. No surprise really, they're back on terms. Be a big frustration to Frank Lampard, in control of the football. I think it was Thomas that was just tiptoeing forward, looking for that pass into midfield, through the lines. Huge credit to Josh Brownhill. That's, you know, a big part of the goal, him winning it high, and then obviously Burnley in business from then on in.
6 attempts at goal in the game, as you saw, and 5 on target, just 20 minutes into this match. Never gives too much away, does he, Scott Parker? But side having to deal with difficulty early in this game, but managing to overcome it to hold themselves level. Coventry looking to come forwards, a bit of a wasted use of possession, and now Frank Lampard's side have to get themselves going once again.
Yeah, well, he claps it, but he'll be disappointed. That could have just been punched into the feet of Mason Clark, and then he's 1v1 up against Roberts. Not really had that opportunity to isolate the fullback as of yet. Kind of went to zing it in behind Roberts and play him in on goal. A little bit heavy.
Well, everybody looks at the run-ins, don't they, of the teams involved at the end of the season, and I think it's been commented on that perhaps Burnley's one is the softer of the three teams, but you have to take into consideration that on Easter Monday they do play Sheffield United. A huge game that is going to be. 5:30 on Easter Monday. Brownhill able to turn and face goal. Derby next up for Burnley at Pride Park as well, by the way, and that won't be easy by any stretch. Derby finding a real burst of form to get themselves out of the relegation zone. You can look at these fixtures all you want, can't you, Sam? But things change week by week. What's to play for? Sides in form, sides all of a sudden falling out of form. Just got to take care of business.
Yeah, you just look at the last few results for Leeds. I think everyone would have expected a handsome victory last time out against Swansea. Took everyone by surprise, and it's just given Sheffield United and Burnley a little bit of a boost in the last week. But this is a tough game, no question today, that Burnley are going to have to try and overcome. Leeds as well after today. Middlesbrough, I think, next up for them. So it really is a massive couple of fixtures for them. Season defining, of course, because the playoffs would be a bitter pill to swallow after last season.
I'm sure there would have been a fair few pings on mobile phones in the Burnley away end over the course of the last few minutes. News from Kenilworth Road that Luton lead against Leeds United. Isaiah Jones with the goal. Sheffield United not in action until 3 o'clock this afternoon. They make the trip to the Kassam to take on Oxford United. Brilliant time of the season this, though, isn't it, Sam? League positions changing all the time. Emotions well and truly being drained of supporters as Burnley have possession here. Anthony. Talk about the quality of the top three teams in the Championship this season. Coventry haven't beaten any of them in the 5 games they've come up against them so far this season, losing 4 of those matches. We saw perhaps just an example of what may be a golfing class between the top 3 and the rest when Coventry went to Sheffield United in such good form last week and just found it a bit too much on that particular evening. So as things stand right now in the Sky Bet Championship, Burnley level here against Coventry. Leeds trailing to Luton. It means that Burnley, as we are, move into the top 2. But you would expect that to fluctuate through the course of the afternoon. Of course, big call was made, wasn't it, this week by Daniel Farke to announce before the game that Milan Melia would not start in goal for them today after his error against Swansea last week. Side keep moving through their season with efficiency. They often say defence is what brings you success, it's what wins you titles, it's what wins you championships and promotion. And there is no better defence than Scott Parker's Burnley. Breached for just a 12th time this season by Haji Wright's opening goal. Of course, at this stage of a season, it's all about who deals with the pressure as well, the expectation, the demand to make it into the top 2 or the top 6, of course, in Coventry's situation. Coventry have a really interesting run-in of their own. They have 4 sides in the bottom half in their 6 games after today. 3 of them against the bottom 4. This the time of the season when those games seemingly get a bit trickier with everything on the line. And what's really interesting to note as well, Sam, with those games against 3 of the bottom 4, all away from home. Trips to Hull, Plymouth and Luton.
Yeah, really tough games. I would presume, if you're in the Coventry camp, you would hope that Portsmouth would probably get a victory at Millwall today, and that would more or less guarantee Pompey safety. And they go to Coventry, obviously, on Wednesday for their next fixture, which will look a little bit kinder, I think, if Pompey get maximum points today. But yeah, you never know. There's always that when you play against a team that are mid-table, probably like Swansea, Preston, QPR. Difficult games because the pressure's off. There's players playing for contracts. There's probably fringe players being given an opportunity, and there's a real freedom. I played in those games, and all of a sudden they can become really difficult fixtures. So there'll be a few curveballs, that's for sure, in the weeks that remain. But it does look, for all intents and purposes, that game, Burnley-Sheffield United, is going to be definitive one way or another.
It will be a huge, huge day at Turf Moor. The sides met on Boxing Day, and Burnley came away from Bramall Lane with a 2-goal victory.
Yeah, that was a very competent Burnley on that afternoon as well. Fully warranted the 3 points, and I think that gap has certainly closed in the last few months. Sheffield United have found that rhythm, front players in form. Burnley, for my money, far and away the better side at that stage of the season.
And Sakamoto hasn't got too much help around him initially, and he'll be happy to settle for the throw. So I think we know what is coming here. No score in the game, by the way, at the Hawthorns between West Brom and Sunderland. So Van Eyck preparing to hurl this one in. And it comes now, and it's difficult for Trafford, who retreats to his line, and the header and then the clearance away, but some nervy moments inside that Burnley penalty area.
The first flick was perfect, and it caused real panic in the Burnley ranks. I think it was Egan Riley at the far post. Great intervention, just it looked like Mason Clark was poised.
Equaliser for Leeds at Kenilworth Road. Dan James with the goal on 28 minutes. So just like Burnley here, Leeds United coming up with a response when finding themselves in difficulty. Here's Rodoni, can't quite take it with him. Free kick given for the challenge by Foster, who wags a finger in disagreeance. Coventry fans up in arms.
Yeah, the Coventry fans not happy with a few of the 50-50 decisions going the way of the visitors, but the big decisions certainly went their way. And the set pieces are causing issues. This long throw, Thomas with the initial little flick, maybe came off a Burnley player, and actually Mason Clark potentially taking it off the toe of Sakamoto, who was arriving.
Just riled up the Coventry fans a little there, that challenge that came in from Lyle Foster. How important today, Sam, are Efron, Mason Clark and Jack Rodoni, a couple of key creative players for Coventry. You know, Burnley won't give you too much. So how important is it that Coventry get them on the ball, but get them on the ball in the right positions? Yeah,
well, I think we've seen in the last 10-15 minutes since Burnley equalised them kind of reverting to what they've been throughout the season. It's been difficult for Coventry to make inroads. Here they go now, right on cue.
Just gets away from Haji Wright, looks to check back inside, and good cover offered and the ball cleared away.
Yeah, Rodoni playing very close to Haji Wright. He's not had loads of balls so far. Picks up a good position there in between centre halves, laying it into Wright, and touch possibly just letting him down. I always felt last season Coventry missed a bit of a trick. I'm sure it was the negotiating of Darren McAntony that kept him at Peterborough. I felt that they could have done with him back in the last season. Going to be a very, very good player. Mason Clark, I think he's already shown this season what he's capable of at the Championship level for the first time.
He's getting a good run in the team right now. 6 starts in his last 7 games, 5 goals, 5 assists so far this season. After a frenetic opening to the game, now perhaps just a bit more control on display. He's had a busy opening half hour, hasn't he, James Bell, the referee, and just wanting to have a word here with Bobby Thomas and the Coventry captain, Jamie Allen.
Yeah, they've not been happy about a few decisions going Burnley's way. Feel like they're getting the majority of those 50-50 calls, but again, a little bit fortuitous, or very fortuitous, to get their nose in front of this game. You've got the luxury of the replays, but it's one that I'm certain would have been talked about endlessly if Burnley were to lose, courtesy of that opening goal.
Flighted forward by Grimes. It's going to skip all the way through, though. Offside flag had been raised anyway.
He's the target, isn't he, Thomas? He's the one they're looking to win that first contact and keep it alive inside the Burnley 18-yard box.
Looked very tight indeed there, as that flag was raised by the assistant, who of course was involved with the Coventry opener, who didn't raise his flag as Haji Wright opened the scoring. Perez pushes it infield to find Josh Lauren, but it's given away.
Yeah, they pick their opportunities to go and close from the front. It's not overly aggressive, but again, working well there in unison, forcing the long pass eventually.
Mason Clark does wonderfully well, and now De Silva can fly forward, sends in the cross, and Haji Wright couldn't get the touch to it. Enterprising play from Coventry City. All it needed was a touch from that man, but Haji Wright just couldn't quite get there for Coventry.
Well, I'm not entirely sure why he doesn't. It's through the legs almost. It's perfect from De Silva, and it's very difficult when you're moving at that pace with so many different options to pick the right one, and he does that and some. It's a brilliant ball in, and that man should be celebrating his second of the game.
Got a hat-trick here in the win against Sunderland, Haji Wright, but couldn't connect with that after what was a brilliant flowing move. Began with some really good play from Efron Mason Clark.
So many times you see a player steaming towards the byline, and when they're moving at that pace, he can't execute the final pass, but it was a sumptuous ball in, taking out the Burnley defender, and it just looked like it was on for Haji Wright to steer home on the volley.
Jay De Silva getting the nod today over Jake Bidwell, who started at Bramall Lane. Very tight to this touchline, and it just gets away from Sakamoto. Anthony. And Foster, no way beyond Bobby Thomas, who stands firm and stands strong, and Coventry crowd appreciated that push forwards by Kitching, but it was a turnover of possession. Coventry working ever so hard when they lose the ball, though, looking to hunt it back, looking to force an error. Lucas Perez is forced to play the ball back to Esteve. Connor Roberts clips it down the line. Tapped by De Silva. Picked up by Lauren. So that equalising goal, as I mentioned, from Dan James at Kenilworth Road for Leeds means that they would then shift back above Burnley in the table, but only on goal difference. Free-scoring Leeds United this season. Burnley with a goal difference of plus 42, but so much of that is down to their brilliant work defensively through the campaign. Anthony. Burnley having to be patient, but looking to find a way to unlock Coventry here. Only had one attempt at goal since Jaden Anthony's equaliser in 16 minutes. Burnley's possession through the afternoon now, creeping up to 63% of the ball. Is it going to run? Is it going to run? It is going to make its way behind.
Yeah, a little spell of possession for Burnley. There's some tactical intricacies that are very similar for both sides. They like a midfield player to drop in between two centre-halves, despite Coventry lining up in a 4-2-3-1. It's almost a back three when they're building. Two up the top with Rodoni and Hadji right. And he's had a good half, Anthony. He's been bright. Obviously got the goal, and I think he's in a rich vein of form at the moment. I think as the season has progressed, those wide players have become more influential for them.
Burnley on the hunt for the lead for the first time this afternoon, and Anthony just couldn't quite get there. The ball fed through by Josh Brownhill.
Well, it's the right pass, I feel. And for a player of Brownhill's quality, he'll be disappointed that he hasn't been able to weight that to perfection. Once more, Egan Riley, he's on the front foot, as Brownhill was for the goal. Brownhill receiving there. It's a difficult pass. It has to go early. It has to be precise. Has to be a one-touch finish. Just can't quite reach it.
Grimes knocks it across to De Silva. Mason Clark, 3 to aim for in the middle, but Connor Roberts does well to initially prevent a cross coming in. Dealt with by Lucas Pires. Sits up very nicely for Bobby Thomas, and in the goal-scoring form that he finds himself in, well worth taking on, but he didn't catch it as he would have wished.
He's been a constant presence, really, in the final third from dead balls or here in open play. I think he makes his mind up as that ball's travelling towards him. That's going to be a touch and a strike. Just choked it into the ground, nearly turned into a good pass.
A goal in the game at the Hawthorns. Sunderland leading by a goal to nil. Trey Hume popping up with another goal 10 minutes before half-time. West Brom coming into today, the closest team to Coventry in the table, down in 7th. Coventry fans were asking the question, and the game has been stopped. Lucas Pires, the player with the challenge.
Yeah, Sakamoto, the player that's caught, he's just trying to block him off. I don't think there's anything there at all, to be honest. That happens across the pitch throughout 90 minutes every week. I don't think that's a foul. And the Coventry fans and the players, I add, have been at the referee, haven't they, on the first couple of decisions this afternoon, and I think they've got one there due to the decibel levels being raised.
Well, they're strong in these situations, Coventry City. 18 headed goals this season, more than any other side in the top 4 divisions of English football. Allen and Rodoni, the two players behind this dead ball. James Bell just wants to have a word. will be left to Radoni, who whips it towards the back post, but too much elevation on it, and it's taken comfortably by James Trafford.
Yeah, I can't imagine he wanted it to end up so deep in the 18-yard box. I think the trajectory he wanted would have been a little bit flatter towards the players, darting towards the near post across the eye line of the goalkeeper. Makes it easy for Trafford.
Creeping towards half-time here. Coventry making such a good start to the game, but Burnley biting back to level up soon after. Goalmouth action has been pretty scarce since the opening 16 minutes. Goalmouth action has been pretty scarce since the opening 16 minutes of. Forwards by Allen. Sakamoto. Plenty of height on the header, and game just a bit scruffy at the moment, but Burnley looking to break, and right under the nose of the referee, he penalises Jamie Allen.
Well, two players converging on Allen there as he looked to break for Coventry. It looked like certainly there was a touch on the ball. Again, not entirely sure that was the right decision.
Is there something here for Burnley? The shot fired towards goal, but body's in the way. Bobby Thomas, big man to pass, and he made sure that he prevented that one, testing Bradley Collins.
Yeah, half an opportunity on the right foot for Edwards. I think Laurent not really been able to get on the ball today for Burnley, especially in the final third, but this is a presentable opportunity. It sits up nicely for him. Jamie Allen a good 5 yards off him when he lets fly.
A clear foul over on the far side by De Silva.
Yeah, decent battle developing between these two. He's done pretty well in 1v1 situations. Not there, a lot of space for Edwards to potentially exploit if he can nudge that beyond his marker.
A game in which these two teams knew would be a real examination of their credentials to make it into the top two and the top six. Very little between Coventry City and Burnley as we tick now into the final minutes of the first 45 here. It's fired towards goal. It just skipped through to Egan Riley, who was a scorer when the two sides met back in November. Maybe to cash in on the situation, and some boos and groans around the CBS Arena once again.
Yeah, there may very well have been a little bit of contact after the strike gets taken. There's very little from that angle. It happens so often, invariably you don't get it. Sometimes in the middle of the pitch you might do. Can't see there being much of a touch there. Difficult chance, just got to try and help it on its way rather than go for the power, which was the option he took.
Sakamoto manages to get there first, just leaned into it. Burnley able to emerge with possession. 1 minute added on here at the end of the first half. Slip from Foster, but he did really well to recover and get Burnley back on the ball, and it's swept brilliantly into the path of Brown, who will rolls it right to find Edwards, who looks to go around the outside. Dogged defending, but Burnley will have a corner.
Yeah, big opportunity once it got transferred. Coventry had 3 or 4 players over on this near side, taken out of the game by Perez's wonderful spot. And Edwards just showing a fraction too much to De Silva, who recovers well again. I think 1-1 probably does for both teams at this point. I think both managers would be pretty satisfied. Absolutely, Scott Parker, the way his team have played their way back in, and Coventry, I think you take optimism that you've created 2 big chances on Burnley's goals. I know that doesn't sound a great amount, but scored a goal, and they've had a sitter spurned by Hadji Wright as well in this opening 45.
But a final chance to strike here in the first half for the visitors. Anthony's corner comes in, headed away by Kitching. Sized up by Connor Roberts, doesn't get enough behind it. Half-time at the CBS Arena. Scott Parker's side bouncing back here this afternoon after falling behind when Haji Wright controversially put Coventry into a 5th-minute lead. Burnley believing he was offside. The replay certainly seemed to vindicate that point of view. Jayden Anthony, though, with a response for Burnley just 11 minutes later. Since then, not too much at all between these two teams. Deliciously poised at half-time, where it is Coventry City 1, Burnley 1. Things, given the talents, the opposition that both teams are taking on today, normally you'd say the point is a pretty good point for both teams, but there's a real thirst and a need here to pick up all 3 points for different reasons for these two teams.
Yeah, I think so, especially off the back of that indifferent performance for Coventry at Bramall Lane, and there's no margin for error, as we've touched on multiple occasions, for Burnley in their pursuit of one of those top 2 positions. Otherwise it puts enormous pressure probably on the big clash against Sheffield United in a few weeks' time. So yeah, they'll be hopeful that they can make 1 or 2 opportunities, but let's hope for a really open second half with 2 teams going for it.
Coventry have won their last 4 here at home. Only lost 1 of their last 12. Burnley fully aware of how difficult this trip would be, and even more so after those opening 5 minutes in which Haji Wright controversially put Coventry into the lead. Plenty of fans still making their way back to their seats here as Frank Lampard watches on. On 13 of 22 league games under him, picking up 42 points in that time. Only the current top 3 have picked up more points in that period. Of course, they always say, don't they, it's the form team that goes into the playoffs that goes up, but Coventry have got to make sure that they continue this form to make sure they remain in the top 6 as well. It's a sustained period of form that they're going to have to come up with if they are to make it into the postseason. Just get a little too close to each other, and a chance here for Anthony. It's a gift of a goal. Burnley back into the lead. A real mix-up at the back. And Jayden Anthony cashes in. How costly could it be for Coventry? Coventry City 1, Burnley 2.
Well, the finish in the end is an instinctive one, and he does well to swivel and get it on the target on his weaker left side. Jayden Anthony to celebrate his brace, but it's a mess, of course, from a Coventry perspective. It's a horrible ball over the shoulder from Esteve initially. And you could tell when it came out of the sky, once it bounces and the proximity of the goalkeeper to the centre-half Kitchen, it's a recipe for disaster. You just hope your centre-half can get onto it and swing a leg probably. And he had the opportunity, didn't he? Multiple occasions to just put his foot through it, over his shoulder, clear his lines. Once he hesitates, you can smell the danger. Anthony gobbles up.
Well, it's a fault which falls upon 2 players in Liam Kitching and Bradley Collins, but of course all eyes will be on Bradley Collins because he's come into the Coventry goal today with Oliver Dovin out for the rest of the season with that ACL injury. It is a gift of a goal so early at the start of the second half. There'll be plenty of people here at the CBS Arena that won't even have seen that, and will be finding out from their fellow supporters just what happened. It was a horrible mix-up. And it is a deflating moment for Frank Lampard and Coventry City. First time that Jayden Anthony has scored 2 goals in a game in 3.5 years. But a vital couple of goals for him. Of course, now Coventry fully aware of how difficult it is to get anything out of this Burnley side. A Burnley side who now lead here this afternoon.
Yeah, this is going to be a real test for Collins now. Yeah, obviously you apportion some of the blame to the centre-half clearly there, but this is the first start he's made since he shipped 4 in a 4-1 defeat at Fratton Park against Portsmouth. So clearly taken out of the team. Dovin's done really well in his absence, had a terrific spell as Coventry's #1. So this is going to be a test when you consider the last time he was out there from the outset a real chastening afternoon for him, and again today.
Lack of communication. Players not taking authority of the situation. That's all it needs, isn't it, Sam? One player to take control.
Yeah, I think it was on, wasn't it? Kitchen was losing his bearings, wasn't he? Or lost his bearings in the moment. And I still feel he could have just swung a leg at it. Doesn't matter how it looks, just get it out of harm's way. And again, it was well finished off. Got to get that direction. And Anthony executed it well.
I think he got a nutmeg in there as well as part of his finish. Jayden Anthony, who's on a hat-trick now. I just feel, after what was a rather engaging and lively half-time for those who remained in their seats here with the legends being paraded, it's all of a sudden fell a bit flat. And Coventry are going to have to dust themselves down and find a way back into this game as Bobby Thomas trots forward. Throw-in absolutely hurled in, real distance on that, but it doesn't come to anything for Coventry. So it was a horrible moment to begin the second half for Coventry City as Jayden Anthony made the most of a situation that was put in front of him here after a mix-up between Liam Kitching and Bradley Collins.
Yeah, it all happened very quickly. You can tell the reaction of Kitchen. I think he knows. Collins as well. Really disappointed, inevitably. Just one of those things. They have to try and put it behind them and refocus. But as we've touched on multiple occasions, Burnley do not surrender advantages. That has been a reoccurring theme throughout their successful season to this point.
Coventry fans feeling that they haven't been getting the decisions here today. Well, they've got one now. Frank Lampard knows his side have got a heck of a task on them. 23 times this season Burnley have led in games. They haven't lost a single one of them. They haven't even conceded 2 goals in a game this season, Sam.
Yeah, it's going to be probably the challenge that they would have anticipated. Obviously, they wouldn't have wanted to go behind. And now they're going to have to play against that resolute, brilliantly structured, confident back line of Burnley and try and breach it once more.
Rudoni's ball in, it was a little flat, but it might still have something with it here as James Trafford tries to dive upon it. Crowd of players scrambling to get a touch, and he does really well there, James Trafford, to hold on to it.
Yeah, no surprise that they're creating mayhem, scrambles. Rudoni's got such quality in his left foot. Yeah, it wasn't probably on the money, this one, but the direction again is perfect, and they do brilliantly to keep it alive. 2 centre-halves actually really competitive, aggressive, just skipped up off the surface. We'll see it here. Haji Wright feels that he's in business here, probably again swivelling towards the target, just couldn't stretch to get something on the ball.
Bodies tumble, free kick goes the way of Coventry. Lyle Foster penalised.
Yeah, that looks key, doesn't it? I think the dead balls, the problems that Coventry are causing, particularly when Rudoni is standing over them. The counter point to that is that Burnley have only conceded from 4 set pieces throughout the season, so it's in keeping with the rest of their defensive displays, but certainly look like Coventry have got a lot of ammunition in that regard.
Mason Clark the target as he does battle with Roberts. The 2 players go to ground. There's Connor Roberts. That one very well read by Bobby Thomas, who looks to thread one through to Haji Wright. So Burnley into the lead, and as it stands, top of the Sky Bet Championship. Leeds being held at Kenilworth Road by Luton Town. 1-1 the score there. Sheffield United not in action until a little later this afternoon, but that a very welcome sight for any Burnley fans watching along with us this afternoon, Sam.
Yeah, absolutely. Although I'm sure Scott Parker, as he said in the lead up to this game, would just be focused on getting the job done today, not looking at the bigger picture. Talk about the excitement that the players should be feeling at this stage of the season in the current guise that they're in. They've had to work hard to get their nose in front here. Coventry will throw everything at them with some good available options from the bench.
Throwing themselves at them now as De Silva's cross comes in, but it was very straightforward for James Trafford. Should also point out, of course, that we saw in that table the effects of the game going on between West Brom and Sunderland right now. West Brom being beaten, closest team to Coventry in terms of the chase for the top six. It would be a 2-point gap. They're not going to lie down here, are they, Coventry City? They'll have a go in this second half at Scott Parker's side. 4 successive wins here at home as we see how Mason Clark went to ground. They've been brilliant under Frank Lampard, and they have the right to believe, Sam, that they can still get something from this game, despite how good Burnley are defensively. Of course, Burnley will feel it should be 2-0. The Coventry goal shouldn't have stood so early in the afternoon. Tricky one, very tricky one to deal with for Egan Riley.
Yeah, maybe that's just a little bit of the contrast there. Egan Riley, Esteve, they just get the job done, don't they? Just when you feel like it's a difficult ball for him to deal with, Egan Riley, invariably, so far this afternoon anyway, the dangle of the leg has taken the ball to safety.
Neatly worked. Now Josh Cullen on to Foster. Coventry wants offside and the flag is raised, and Josh Brownhill will be a touch relief there as he put that strike of goal wide.
Yeah, it feels like so often today the source of Burnley's threatening attacks have come down that left-hand side. Anthony's been really bright with his decision-making, one-touch passing. Of course, he'll get the plaudits for the goals, but he's been excellent, his all-round performance. Foster, willing runner, but not really affected things too much, not had that opportunity fall his way either. Wouldn't be surprised to see Fleming probably quite soon off the bench.
Fleming, who has 2 goals in his last 3 games, including that great strike last week up at Turf Moor against Bristol City. Fed down the line, just lent into by Josh Brownhill, but no handball given, and he steals possession of Kitching. Josh Brownhill looks to roll it across goal. Flying in comes Bobby Thomas.
We're looking for Foster. Similar move to that of Coventry towards the tail end of the first half, just looking to drive it across the 6-yard box to the player arriving. Bobby Thomas doing well, bailing out his centre-half partner, Kitching.
Time very much being taken here by Jayden Anthony. Coventry fans just making sure that referee James Bell is keeping across it. Cullen neatly worked across here, and there's a bit of room to work with for Connor Roberts, but he gives it back to Cullen. Anthony fires it across, awkward one, and claims of handball there by the Burnley players.
Yeah, nicely worked. Connor Roberts turning down the opportunity to shoot when he had a nice 10 yards of space maybe. Right, could have done better at the near post and cleared Coventry's lines. Not a penalty for me, even if it did strike the arm.
Foster was curving his run, trying to stay on side, but not quite able to do so. Big appeals here from Burnley. They felt they could have had a penalty.
Yeah, they worked it nicely, intricately. It's a good ball in. It's a difficult one to defend because of the low trajectory. But no, I don't think Kitchen can even see the ball. He anticipates probably the player in front clearing it, jumps up, maybe grazes the arm, but not a penalty.
Coventry on the front foot. Thomas. Van Ijwijk. With Thomas again. Grimes finds De Silva. It's pushed into a good little area there, but Josh Cullen again, he reads those situations so well, and he gets Burnley back on the ball, and he gets them flying forward with Foster.
Yeah, you're right, it was a lovely little lead from Kitching. Just looked like Coventry were tiptoeing their way through Burnley there, and Cullen dispossessing right on cue. Excellent bit of defensive play from him and setting Burnley away.
Mason Clark. De Silva. Looking to find Mason Clark again, who's just shielded, pushed out of the way by Connor Roberts. Shrewd, savvy defending.
I can't really remember Coventry creating anything of note since the Burnley second, so I'm sure Frank Lampard and his coaching staff will be talking about how they can affect things, how they can put this game back in their favour. I'm sure Ellis Sims comes into the thinking, probably not alongside Haji Wright, but maybe that will be get him on the pitch. Wright can play in one of the wide positions, I'm sure.
Getting towards that time in the game, changes start to happen. Just the one attempt at goal we've had so far since the restart, and it was opportunistic finish from Jayden Anthony.
Victor Torp, another Coventry player waiting in the wings, who's really unfortunate not to be in the 11 today. Probably Jamie Allen getting the nod over him, but he's been affecting things really positively from midfield, getting in the box, creating things. I'm sure he'll have a part to play this afternoon as well.
Got a couple of goals in the victory here against Stoke back at the start of March, Victor Torp. Van Ijwijk can't find a way to get his cross beyond Jayden Anthony, who's influencing the game in both ends of the pitch. But again, we know what will come here. Van Ijwijk has been posing problems with these long throw-ins into the Burnley penalty area. And it comes once again. Sakamoto breaks on the edge of the area to Jamie Allen. He's over the top.
Not the first time that Sakamoto and Rodoni have just miscommunicated at a vital moment. Looked like it was set for one of them to strike. Sakamoto just taking it off the toes of Rodoni as he was poised. Yeah, Jamie Allen just having a swing at it. 25 yards out, sat up nicely actually, and just couldn't control it onto the target.
Hasn't scored this season so far, Jamie Allen. Just a reminder, in the other two games taking place this lunchtime, Sunderland leading West Brom at the Hawthorns by 1-0. Luton and Leeds level at 1-1 at Kenilworth Road. Might be something on here for Burnley. Foster with the go at goal. Collins gets himself in the way. Coventry scrambling to get the ball out of harm's way, which they're unable to do. No-time challenge by Matt Grimes. Rodoni. Plenty of contact on him, but in the end the whistle will come.
I think it was Thomas there, just tried to read the ball in front of Foster's and gets done. Lovely little spin. Thomas doesn't need to try and win that, just needs to stay goal side, and he gets loads of pace in the strike. Fortunately for Collins, it's straight down the barrel. Foster would have been looking to kind of drag that towards the far corner.
A moment to feel a bit better for Bradley Collins after what transpired for Burnley's second goal. De Silva sends in the cross, nobody there for Coventry. The header though means Burnley are going to have the ball come back at them. Kept in play by De Silva, taken over by Mason Clark. Thomas. Sakamoto dipping into the bag of tricks, clipping in a cross which is met by Estev. Now Rodoni. Thomas. Read his intention, but fall to Josh Cullen. But Coventry having a good little spell here. Roared on. This crowd here at the CBS Arena. Rodoni again. Can Coventry get him on the ball more? Give him the ability to shape this game, to influence this game, to get Coventry creating chances.
Well, he's the one that wants to make the box, not coming towards the ball too often, wants to get in there and wants delivery from wide to come in early. Unfortunately, the two wide players not influencing things hugely. Here we go.
Chance for Mason Clark to change that as he breaks into the Burnley box before losing his footing, luckily for him. De Silva on hand. Cross clipped in. Dealt with under pressure by Lucas Pires. Burnley unable to get a grip of possession. Right, battling away. Burnley getting bodies around the ball. Anthony will clear it away, but again it's just going to come back. Burnley are preparing a change.
Yeah, it's an excellent spell for the home side. It's not equating to opportunities on the Burnley goal, but pressure is building. Just want more from those two wide players. Mason Clark looks like he's tiring down on this near side. Sakamoto very much on the fringe of the game throughout the entirety so far. He's not been able to get the better of his opposite number. Pires has had his number. That's where they need improvement.
Ian Fleming primed to come on here for Burnley as they have to deal with this period of Coventry possession. As some said, possession which isn't really creating goal-scoring opportunities right now. Grimes into Mason Clark. Can't link up with De Silva. That's the areas of the pitch where it's not quite happening for Coventry. Yeah,
just looks a little uneasy at the moment. And Mason Clark just needs his next involvement to be on point. Needs to tidy up when the ball's played into him. Grimes making them tick, as he so often does. De Silva coming in field as well on occasions. Fleming not happy that he's not had the opportunity to get into the action.
Zach Kettle, the fourth official, getting plenty of heat. You could see how annoyed Fleming was as Coventry come forwards once again. Right, able to turn. Again, it breaks down as they get close to the Burnley goal. Pause in play, and that substitution can now take place as we cross the midway point in the second half. A relatively uneventful second half so far, but of course the moments in which Burnley regain the lead coming very early in it through Jadon Anthony. So here comes the substitution. The Burnley players just taking the opportunity to come across to the touchline and take on board a bit of fluid and a bit of tactical instruction as well. Marcus Edwards' afternoon is done. as he's replaced by Zian Fleming. Zian Fleming, who has 9 championship goals this season. Burnley players being a bit shrewd here as well, seeing the opportunity to just knock off a few more seconds as they all came across to the touchline. Very slowly making their way back out. Frank Lampard rising from the Coventry dugout just to make a point or two towards the referee.
Yeah, we've seen throughout the season they'll do whatever it takes to get the job done. So many marginal victories, so many tight games. They know exactly how to see out this type of situation.
Alan Pace here watching on this afternoon. Burnley on course to climb back into the Premier League. Not the first time of asking. Such a difficult year for them, of course, last year as they finished 19th. Writing appeared on the wall for much of the campaign. Had that dreadful start, didn't they, at Turf Moor, where they just couldn't get a result. Made the decision to appoint Scott Parker back in July. Looks like being a very shrewd decision. The success rate of Scott Parker in the Championship, 100% when it comes to getting teams promoted. He did it with Fulham in 2020 and Bournemouth in 2022. His only 2 seasons managing at this level. Yellow card shown. As Coventry have themselves a free kick here.
Yeah, maybe we shouldn't be surprised by how this season has gone. Yeah, the numbers are incredible defensively, but I think he had Mitrovic at Fulham, Dominic Solanke, 1 or 2 others as well. Maybe the forward players at Burnley aren't of that level. They're good players, and maybe he had to hone in, focus in a little bit more on the rear guard to possibly get the job done 3rd time.
Egan Riley booked for what was a late challenge on Jack Rodoni. Mason Clark. Clip forwards helped on by Bobby Thomas. Just to go back to Scott Parker, shows a sign of a good manager, doesn't it? That, as you say, had good strikers, really good players, impressive high-level performers at Fulham and Bournemouth. Different group at Burnley, and he's playing to their strengths.
Yeah, absolutely. And for large swathes of the season, he hasn't had, you know, a kind of number 9 banging form, an obvious pick up there, so he's had to be flexible.
Brownhill takes it on.
Yeah, just reconfigured that front line as well. Fleming naturally gone down the middle. That's where he's been deployed throughout the season. Anthony now down on this right-hand side, and Foster, despite arriving as a centre-forward, he's played a lot of football left-hand side of that front 3 so far this season. So that's the way they're set up now, but it's all about without the ball, isn't it? Just closing down that space, making sure your distances are right. Josh Lauren very deep in the second half, kind of on the toes of the 2 centre-halves, just doing a sturdy job back there.
Header put behind by Max Estev, and it grants Coventry a corner here.
Yeah, this is their chance, isn't it? I think set pieces, I think we've seen when they put the ball in, it's causing 1 or 2 problems. They're unable to prize Burnley open in open play. That's for sure in this second half. This is looking the most likely route.
Can Matt Grimes find a delivery? Depth on the corner, header towards goal, and it just ricochets up, and James Trafford comes out and claims. Won't be in a rush here, will he?
No, that's for certain. I think it was Mason Clark who was really well positioned there, just in the middle of the goal when they won that initial header. Obviously struck a Burnley player before it could make its way to him, but again, that first touch from the free kicks, corner kicks, centre-halves are invariably winning them.
Change coming for Coventry. Jamie Allen hands over the armband to Liam Kitching. De Torp is going to get 17 minutes plus stoppage time to try and turn the tide here. Coventry with 48% of the ball in this second half. Much improved in terms of their share of possession than the first half.
And it's that time just to take greater risks, and Torp for Allen is certainly that. A little bit more forward thinking. Good return really for someone who's been used sporadically from the outset of games, but if they're going to put balls in the box, he's another one that will arrive and certainly got an eye for a goal.
I'm just going to correct myself there. I didn't think that was quite what I saw when I looked at the screen. 66% possession for Coventry since the restart. They've had 5 attempts at goal. They haven't had one on target yet since we got back underway. Cross comes in, it skips up, and Cullen, with composure, just pokes it forward. But Burnley again struggling to find a way out. Can this possession, can this pressure lead to an equaliser? Cross comes in, awkward for Connor Roberts, who defends it well. Doesn't concede the corner either, but Coventry will have the opportunity perhaps to launch one of these long throw-ins in once again.
Well, I think it's a brilliant ball in. Van Ivijk again from the right-hand side. He delivers real quality, and it's too easy a header for Connor Roberts on the far side. Mason Clark needs to be slightly more aggressive there.
Enough change coming for Burnley. Maybe a call for some tenacity in that midfield area. Hannibal, the player who's going to come on. Josh Brownhill, the one who will depart.
Yeah, he does a good job for the team, filling gaps, obviously breaks forward, got them a good return of goals this season. But yeah, absolutely, it calls for fresh legs, and it calls for that ball-winning ability, I think, in the midfield now. And Josh Brownhill, I think at this stage, 75 minutes gone, being sacrificed to just bring a little bit more energy to the party.
Josh Brownhill rousing the travelling support. Huge 15 minutes in Burnley's season as the ball comes into the penalty area. Nodded down by Grimes, lofted towards the back post. Mason Clark had hands on him. Nothing given.
No problem with that. That's just good defending from Mason Clark. Is, I'm sure, as he's backpedaling, just going to try and keep it alive in the 18-yard box. The Burnley players know that. They get tight, put hands on him. I think it's Josh Cullen, actually. Probably got hold of his shirt a little. Yeah, he has. There's a little tug there, and that's what the supporters behind the goal are appealing for. But the officials are just not going to be able to see that.
Reasons for Coventry to believe that they can still get something from this game, but they have to find a bit more quality in the final third. So the numbers from the second half showing this, the overall match stats: 10 efforts apiece in this game for both Coventry and Burnley. More touches in the opposition box for Frank Lampard's team, and the possession over the course of the game very much evening up as Coventry push and probe and try and find a way level.
I can't remember James Trafford having a save to make, other than maybe the Rodoni one that led to the goal. So that, I think, tells the story, really. Yes, Coventry have probably marginally had the better of the second half, but it has not transpired to opportunities on Trafford's goal. It's been another very good half an hour or so defensively from Burnley.
So a reminder of the state of play in the Championship right now. This, for Burnley, would take them top ahead of Sheffield United's game against Oxford at 3 o'clock this afternoon. Leeds being held at Luton. For Coventry, the gap to West Brom in 7th, 2 points, because West Brom are being beaten at home right now by Sunderland. Trey Hume's goal separating the two teams. Will there be a change or two to that table before we are done here today? Burnley haven't conceded 2 goals in a league game all season long. Coventry having to do something that no side has managed in 39 attempts this season. But they have scored late goals here recently, Coventry City. Bobby Thomas has been the man to step up in recent victories. Goal against Stoke. 3 goals in his last 7 games for Bobby Thomas. Scored 3 winning goals here for Coventry in their last 4 games.
He's unfortunate there, right? He's just trying to get himself into a position to try and hold the ball around the halfway line for his team. Naturally, the momentum of both players causing a collision. And just running the clock down now, Burnley are attempting to, disrupting any Coventry flow.
Also got an injury time winning goal. Bobby Thomas here against Queen's Park Rangers recently. It's those Burnley fans whose belief that 3 points are coming their way is beginning to build. Coventry have had 85% of the ball, Sam, in the last 15 minutes. Here's Connor Roberts as Burnley get themselves downfield. Swept across by Cullen. Because Pires. Foster looking to thread one through. He manages to link up with Hannibal. The effort comes in, tipped away by Bradley Collins.
A really good play. Built off that left-hand side once more. This time, Foster, the architect, really clever. Medjbury, his first involvement really in an attacking sense, and it's just about central enough for Collins to get a good sight of it. Josh Laurent with his second opportunity from range.
He got a couple of goals this season, Josh Laurent, and they both came in the same game. Burnley's thumping 5-0 win down at Home Park back in January. Anthony over the corner. Flicked away, and then Hannibal with the follow-up. Coventry clear it away as far as Cullen. Fleming waiting in the middle. Neatly worked, Egan Riley. Away from Foster. Time ticking down. Frank Lampard dips to the bench once again. On comes Ellis Sims to replace Tatsuhiro Sakamoto.
Yeah, quiet today, Sakamoto. Lovely technician, but not been able to affect things a great deal. See what it means for the setup for the moment. Two-pronged attack, both Sims and right down the middle.
Something different for Burnley to consider as Sims looks to throw himself into the heat of battle immediately. He's helped to get his side a corner. I don't think he was expecting that. Well, the assistant has indicated for it, but it's a decision which has been overruled, it seems, by James Bell, the referee.
Yeah, quite often, Coventry set up with the ball in a back three, so maybe it's a positive that he can change the shape without making too many changes from the touchline.
Frank Lampard wasn't happy, was outside of his technical area there to make his point of view. It certainly didn't seem as if Ellis Sims was expecting a corner. Now will we see Coventry be a bit more direct, look to get that ball forward a bit more quickly, try and turn that Burnley defence. Thomas on to Sims. swept away by James Trafford. Now Hannibal with those fresh legs onto the field, looking to advance it, looking to scamper down the touchline. Watched all the way by Kitching, who just gets himself in front of Hannibal to win the free kick. And Hannibal has to be careful there. Hasn't been careful enough. His protestations are going to lead to a caution.
Well, it looks like they've just gone to kind of a 4-4-2, Coventry, with the two centre forwards on. Rodoni holding his position high on the right-hand side, and Mason Clark likewise on the left. So Burnley will have opportunities to break, but time is now, isn't it, to go for this game. And with two physical players down the middle, that pass we've just seen back to front is probably going to be the way of the game.
Coventry needing to step on the gas. Rodoni.
Yeah, he's going to need the fullback here. He arrives now. Rodoni's not going to get beyond the fullback with pace, with athleticism. He knits it together. Fullbacks are going to have to really push on in this shape.
Lucas Pires can't get it too far away.
Yeah, your assurance is Grimes here. He won't venture too far forward. Grimes, two centre-halves stay back. Everyone else get forward. Ask different questions of Burnley. Try and move them out of their shape, because for the majority of this second half, been very comfortable for them.
Anthony, and he has options here. Clips it into the penalty area, and Collins can't quite prevent the corner. Ball needed to be cut out, but now Coventry will have more defending to do as Burnley prepare to bring on Jeremy Sarmiento, who scored when the two sides met back in November. Frank Lampard was appointed 2 days after that game at Turf Moor. Coventry haven't looked back since. An improvement of 11 places up the league table. Finding themselves right now with a playoff place. Plenty of twists and plenty of turns still to come in this championship season. I do wonder what could be at stake when Middlesbrough come here on the 46th and final day of the campaign. Corner whipped in, flicked away. It breaks to Connor Roberts. Hannibal floats in across, header high, and it clears the area from Bobby Thomas as well. Jay De Silva comes along to help, but it will be a Burnley throw. Did well there, Hannibal, and more seconds to be taken off the clock, and he's in full-on wind-up mode here, isn't he, Hannibal?
It just needs to temper that a degree, but exactly where Burnley would want the ball, and again, so comfortable in their own skin. I think in these types of positions, they know that they're nearly there.
They know how to grind a result out, and well, Foster will just take a nice stroll across to the far side here to be replaced by Jeremy Sarmiento. Warm applause for his efforts here this lunchtime. So there might be a tweak being made by Scott Parker here tactically. We can see the piece of paper in the hand of Jeremy Sarmiento. So a bit of a reshuffle, it seems, coming as that instruction passed on to Josh Lauren. Now tuck it down your sock and don't let Coventry see what you're up to. Bouncing around inside the penalty area. Bobby Thomas will charge forwards here and just collides with Josh Lauren.
There have been a few of these in the second half. They know when to take the opportunity to make the game go dead, and they do it expertly well.
Josh Lauren was not going to allow Bobby Thomas to advance. Scott Parker said that his team are so well-rounded, they understand every phase, every situation of the game. Attacking, defensive, set plays, out of possession. Can they get across the line here? Coventry now have to throw everything at them as we enter the final 90 seconds of the 90. Well, they've dealt with these relatively well, and they are so awkward to deal with defensively. And it comes from Van Eyck once again. Trafford misses it. That could have been a horrendous moment for James Trafford, but he gets away with it. Sarmiento steps in before slipping. Into the 90th minute.
He gets incredibly well protected, Trafford, by his centre-halves. I don't know if Esteve knew too much about it, as there's a coming together there off the ball. Well, certainly both benches up in arms. And Esteve with a brilliant clearance at a vital moment.
It's all just starting to boil again. I'm surprised to see Hannibal right in the mix. Frank Lampard had come right onto the touchline to show his dismay at the awarding of a free kick for Jeremy Sarmiento going to ground. And as we've mentioned a few times and more in these closing moments of the game, Burnley really showing some expertise at being able to run a clock down.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's the... He just runs across him there, Sarmiento, and he probably gets a little bit of a whack for good measure. I think the initial infringement was probably the obstruction, if you like, from the Burnley player.
5 minutes to be added on. I think Van Eyck making a fair point there. He's charging, trying to play the ball, and Sarmiento's just stepped across him to stop him. But Burnley have the free kick. There was a yellow card shown as well. We'll confirm who that was for in a moment. It was Milan Van Eyck, who I think can feel very unfortunate at what transpired there. Still time for Coventry. Nervy moments for Burnley. Coventry win it back, hunting to get on possession. Clear shove in the back by Fleming on Ellis Sims.
Yeah, a lot going on. I think he was disappointed that he didn't get the award of a free kick a few moments ago. Fleming steamed back into that pack of players, just shoved Sims over. Talk goes to ground, and yeah, gives them the opportunity to load the box, because let's be fair, in open play they've only been so comfortable last 20 minutes or so. Coventry not had the answers.
Forward it comes once again, but it's a header which is uncontested. And we're on this 4-game winning run here at home, Coventry, and in those 4 games they have twice scored stoppage time goals. Now they take one now to grab a point here this afternoon. Connor Roberts being helped to his feet. Not sure he wanted to be, back down on the ground, and now feeling the need to undo his laces as well.
Yeah, no question he gets caught, but he goes down theatrically. Roberts, I would suggest, I think he just treads on his foot. I think that's a little unnecessary. I don't think that he's going to be too bothered.
Van Eyck, can Coventry get the first contact? Strike fired in, straight into the crowd and then thumped away. De Silva chasing, Hannibal eating up the ground. De Silva did well. And Sarmiento is going to pressure Bradley Collins, who sets Coventry on their way once again. Into Sims, but he loses possession. Hannibal. There's Fleming ahead of him. Hannibal's just going to turn and drive towards that corner flag, being watched by Kitching. He's got the ball between his legs there, Hannibal. And for that reason, Coventry have a free kick.
They've waited so long for just a glimmer. And it was a great header from that previous free kick. Sims' touch just evaded him at a vital moment. Just got to get hold of it and try and pop the ball wide when you've got bodies in the box.
Coventry want handball. Game goes on. And now a chance for Burnley to put this one on ice. Sarmiento has Fleming with him, and he just dithered and dallied, and Coventry back on the ball. They have time. Minute and a half still remaining of stoppage time, but Coventry haven't had an attempt on goal in this second half. It's loose and it's poor from Victor Tor. Into Fleming. Josh Cullen ahead of him. Still Fleming here. Zian Fleming going for goal. Comfortable for Collins.
Yeah, good stuff from Fleming. Used Cullen as the decoy, and you know, either foot really. He's got great quality, capable of the spectacular. Just didn't quite catch his strike, and Collins can clutch it down low to his right, no problem.
Now Torp. Mason Clark. Coventry players waiting for a delivery to come. Rudoni. His cross comes in. Cleared away only as far as De Silva. Flighted towards the far post as Coventry player goes down. Burnley clear it away. As things stand, Burnley moments away from topping the Sky Bet Championship, with Leeds being held at Luton and Sheffield United not in action until later on. But is there to be a twist? Mason Clark prods it on. Hannibal, and he gets the free kick as well, and that surely will be enough for Burnley here.
Yeah, just pure frustration from Coventry. Not only Burnley running the clock down and getting the ball out of harm's way, but more their lack of opportunities in this second half. Loads of the ball, and they've been in the game, Burnley, no question, but in keeping with what else we've seen through the entirety of the campaign. It's not looked in doubt, has it really, for half an hour? I think those Burnley fans behind that goal have been quite comfortable, really, despite defending a slender lead.
And the manner of the goal is going to be a source of huge frustration for Frank Lampard. Scott Parker's side capitalising on the opportunity that was given to them. They knew how difficult this would be for them here today. They have come up with an answer. Don't forget that Burnley trailed in this game. Is there time for Coventry to launch one last attack? They're going to have a free kick here. Everybody will go forward. One last act of defiance needed from Burnley.
Yeah, another one of those kind of tactical fouls, isn't it? Surprised that Josh Lauren hasn't picked up one already. A yellow card, that is, but you don't mind that. There's such trust, isn't there, in the central defenders, that probably that was the decision worth taking, albeit Rudoni standing over it. One last opportunity for the home side.
Forward comes Bradley Collins. Burnley believe this game should already be over. 6.5 minutes into stoppage time. They felt the whistle should have been blown before that challenge from Josh Lauren. They've struck late twice recently here at home. Can they do it again? Collins gets his head to it. And there is the full-time whistle. A huge victory for Burnley in their quest for the Premier League. Trailing today, but leaving the CBS Arena with all 3 points. Yet again, their resilience comes to the fore. Scott Parker's side taking another step towards finishing the season in the top 2. This was a tough assignment for them against Frank Lampard's in-form Coventry City. But Burnley, as they seemingly always do, had the answer. Jadon Anthony with both goals, the second of which was a gift after a clanger at the back, as Bradley Collins and Liam Kitching failed to deal with a ball forward. Coventry pushed and pressed and had the possession in the second half, but they rarely tested James Trafford in the Burnley goal. It's a costly one for Coventry in their push for a place in the top 6, and Frank Lampard has been shown a red card there by the referee, James Bell. Well, he wasn't happy through the course of the afternoon with some of the decisions. I'm not even sure he knows that he was shown a red card there. He had his back turned to the referee when the card came out, but perhaps a message of defiance here from Frank Lampard to the Coventry City crowd. This season wasn't going to be defined by a clash against Burnley, but it's a game in which they have been beaten. Boos in 3 sides of this arena, but joy in the away end. Burnley with a huge win. How vital it might prove to be for them. Full-time score here at the CBS Arena. It finishes Coventry City 1, Burnley 2.